Air fryer, salt and vinegar, potato chips.
Let's see what's cooking. Let's get the facts. Let's see what's cooking. It's time for Yo-Yo Max 12.
Hello everyone, starting off with the seasoning mix. 6 tablespoons of salt, 3 tablespoons of vinegar, whatever kind of vinegar you want to use. I used cider vinegar, and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And then you're just going to whisk that together. Try to dissolve as much of the salt as you can. It's not going to completely dissolve because there's not a lot of liquid in there compared to the salt. And then spread it out onto a cookie sheet that's been lined with either a silicone mat or some waxed paper. And you're going to pour it on there, and then you're going to spread it out as thinly as you can. And then you're going to let it dry. Now you can let it dry just at room temperature. Might take overnight by the time it's completely dry. I put mine in the oven at about 200 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour or so until it was completely dry. And that method worked quite well. And here it is, nice and dry. And what's great about using a silicone mat is it's really easy to get that salt and vinegar mixture off. I just kind of rolled it up and it just all came off really easily. Now, if you'll notice, there's a bit of liquid underneath my silicone mat. This silicone mat has a couple little pinholes in it, and some of the liquid went through to the other side, but that's okay. So I took these flakes, or these pieces, and you need to break them up. Now, the recipe says use a fork, but you know what? You wanted a fairly nice fine powder. So I tried my little food processor. But my food processor doesn't bring things to a powder very well. I don't know if the little blades inside are dull because it's so old. So what I ended up doing is I ended up using my mortar and pestle, and I ground it up that way. So it took a little elbow grease, but I did end up with a nice fine powder that tastes like salt and vinegar. And then you'll need potatoes, of course. This particular recipe says 2 large russet potatoes. I just had plain old white potatoes. I left the skins on because they were relatively new potatoes, and I sliced them as thin as my little mandolin would slice, which is pretty thin. And I put them in water just while I was waiting to finish the recipe so they wouldn't turn brown. And now you're going to put these onto some paper toweling and then just pat it each piece so that they are nice and dry, or as dry as you can get them. Put them in a bowl. I added about a tablespoon or so of vegetable oil. It just gave them a nice toss to make sure they are coated. And then it's time to air fry. There's the air fryer basket. I'm just throwing on a little bit of cooking spray, tossing in my potatoes, spreading them around. And then I'm going to set my air fryer to 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. It took less time than that, but 20 minutes is the recommended time. Every 5-6 minutes or so, I went in and I just separated the pieces and then just kind of stirred them around just so that each piece had an opportunity to get nice and brown. And then they're done. They look really good. They look like regular potato chips. They're nice and crispy. And then you just sprinkle on the seasoning that you made. I put mine in a little shaker bottle. Okay, here's my review of this recipe. The chips are awesome. They're delicious. You do not miss the fact that they are not deep fried at all. Nice and crispy. The only thing I would do next time is I would make them just a tiny bit thicker. These were like paper thin. I would make them just a slightly thicker than that. The seasoning mix itself, however, was a disappointment. You could barely taste the vinegar. It was there, but it was extremely subtle. So I would recommend that you use a different kind of seasoning altogether. If you do want salt and vinegar, either buy salt and vinegar seasoning powder that people used to put on popcorn and that kind of a thing, or just sprinkle a little vinegar on your salted potato chips before you eat them. If you're looking for more recipes to use in your air fryer, check out my playlist. Thanks for watching.